Rebecca's Veg. We have the stand round the corner and we sell all things to do with vegetables, seed and what have you, onion sets, all that sort of stuff. I first came to this flower show 48 years ago, and I exhibited here 40 years ago, first time, in the floral marquee. So I've been coming a long while. We had a break of about 30 years when we had children, and we didn't do flower shows at all, because I thought, well, it's a bit unfair to fetch children to a flower show for 4 days, so we abandoned doing flower shows. Then we came back and did Campanulas, and then we had a granddaughter born called Rebecca. And when Rebecca was born, she had allergies or intolerances. She can't have dairy, and she can't have wheat. So she can't have bread, cake, or anything like that, but Rebecca adores vegetables. So I started growing vegetables again. It was the first thing I ever grew. I had an allotment in about 1957, 58, something like that. And I went to a friend's mother and father's. I went to their allotment when I was round about 10, about 1955, 56, something like that. And because Rebecca had these allergies, we started doing vegetables, and we wanted something else to do. We're actually displaying Campanulas. And we decided we'd do vegetables, but we'd be a bit more different than everybody else. The vegetables, what we grow, are for eating. We don't do vegetables to look at. We do vegetables for eating. The main thing what we do is we want to be able to, is taste. I always say if a potato looks terrible, you think, well, that's an horrible looking potato. Nobody would grow it unless it tasted good. Nice looking potatoes usually taste horrible, and horrible looking potatoes usually taste nice. So we started doing that, and we've done large flower shows ever since. But I'm going to start off with a little story about my time when I started right at the beginning growing vegetables. I had a friend who I went to Sunday school with called Joan, and Joan said to me one Sunday, "Do you fancy coming to my mum and dad's allotment?" Well, it was summertime, nice weather, and I come from Accrington. Stanley weren't playing because it were out of season, so I said, "Go on then, I'll have a go. I'll come to your mum and dad's allotment." And her dad was called Eric, and her mother was called Millie. So I went along to their allotment on a Saturday. And I would imagine it's a bit sort of thing, same thing as it is today. Allotments aren't really just for growing things. Allotments are really a way of life. We used to do other things at the allotment. We used to have a picnic and things like that. And Joan used to put wildflowers in vases for us when we had a picnic and all this sort of stuff. So there's other things going on at allotments besides just growing vegetables. But Harry, what I'm going to do is I'm going away to Greece when I finish flower shows for 5 weeks, and I'm going to write a book. And the book is about tales from an allotment, the stories thing. And I did 2 yesterday. Did anybody hear me yesterday? Oh, there you are. I can do some of yesterday's as well. But what I'm going to tell you about is this one's called Harry's composting. Harry had 3 compostings, and he used to collect stuff for his composting. And Harry thought that composting was marvellous. And I went along to Harry's allotment, and I said to him, "Why do you have 3? Why do you have compost heaps and why do you have 3? He said, "Well," he said, "I have 3 compost heaps. One is for the compost that I'm making, that I'm getting. The other one's rotting down, and the third one is already rotting." And he said, "There's 3 reasons for having a composting. The first one is you get rid of all your rubbish. You put all the stuff that's all the weeds, all the annual weeds on your compost heap. You put your cabbage leaves on your compost heap. You put everything else. He said, and I get some horse milk. He said, our milkman, Mr. Jackson, has a milk floor, what he calls the horse. He says, and when it gets to the top of Old Street, and he stops it there, and it's gone all the way uphill, it tends to drop something behind it. He said, and I go along at morning at 6:30 with my shovel and my bucket, and I fill it up. And at the end of the week, I have a big bucket full of horse manure. He said, and that goes on my compost heap, and that helps to rot all the cabbages down. And I have a pile of soil next to my compost heap, and I put a load of soil on, and then we start again. And he built it all the way up. He said, and it makes absolutely wonderful compost. He said, and then in the winter time, when I'm going to put my potatoes, I dig a big trench out at the top of my allotment, and I work my way down, digging it over. I take that big trench and put that big trench full of soil with my barrow next to my compost heap, because I'm going to use that at compost heap, and I dig it all the way up, and I bury that compost heap. So it makes really good stuff. It has all worms in what break the soil and wonderful. And I said, but Eric, he said, what do you mean, but Eric? I said, but Eric, that's only 2 reasons for having a compost heap. What's the third? He said, the third reason for having a compost heap is I grow my horseradish on top. He said, and I really love horseradish. He said, I said, what's horseradish? He said, that thing up top of my compost heap. I said, I thought that were a dog. I thought that were if Joan got stung with a nettle with something to rub on. He said, oh no, he said, that's my horseradish. He said, and what I do is, I grow that on top of my compost heap, and then in winter time, when I'm digging that in, I take that horseradish out, as I work down, take all root out, he said, and then I take it home and mill it, makes horseradish sauce. He said, because, he said, I love roast beef on a Sunday. He said, and we always have roast beef. He said, if I have my choice, which I don't always, he said, because Millie likes silvertide, but I always like brisket. He said, I love brisket, and it has to go with horseradish. So, he said, and then on Mondays, he said, I have whatever's left on sandwiches with horseradish sauce again. You use a lot of horseradish sauce, won't you, Eric? He said, I certainly do. He said, that's why we have to have a big plant of horseradish. I said, but I don't like roast beef. I said, would it be all right on corned beef? No, he said, you want Millie's or roast beef? He said, melts in your mouth. I said, well, if we're coming up on a Monday night, can you fetch me a sandwich with horseradish on? Certainly will. And he did. So it's a wonderful thing to grow horseradish. If you put it in your garden, it spreads everywhere. If you put it on the top of your compost heap, it doesn't. You can reuse it again.